Okay, good morning and welcome to Just Daf It, Daf Yomi Shir. We're learning Meseches Yevamos, Daf Ayin Ches 78. We're almost 3/4 of the way done with Meseches, 2/3 actually, 2/3 of the way done with Meseches Yevamos. It's exciting in our lives because we're waiting for Meseches Ksuvos coming up next. It's going to be a blast, Meseches Ksuvos. We're going to all find out about what we're doing wrong in our marriages, how we're not fulfilling our obligations in marriage. And if you think you are fulfilling your obligations in marriage, wait till I tell you how you're not fulfilling your obligations in marriage. Everyone thinks the main problem is they don't provide parnasa for their wives. And the main problem is they don't provide sipuk for their wives. That's what we're going to get into in Maseches Ksuvos. Sipukaichi. What does it mean to give her sipuk? To give her fulfillment in life. It's part of the ksuba. Of course, you have to provide for her needs also financially, but you're not going to want to miss that. Get rid of her. Maseches Ksuba is coming up very soon, in like a month and a half, 2 months. I want to share with you the words of my dear friend David. You might recognize him from dancing some of my videos. He told me personally today, he says, and Sion, what you're doing with Torah, you are the Moshe Feinstein of this generation. He said, I listen to your shiurim, I listen to your Ian. He says, there's no one like you. No one gives shiurim like you. No one gives, especially your Ian. He said, Yori la'omko shal sugya, to give on every single daf of Daf Yomi, and to give an Ian Shir Mishnah Yomi and Shulchan Aruch Yomi. I'm adding on. There is no one like me out there. You're not going to find any yeshiva you go to. I guarantee it. You're not going to find any shir, even a regular Daf Yomi. You're not going to find any shir, the quality and the conciseness of my shir, both the regular shiurim and the Ian shiurim. You will not find it. I guarantee it, or your money back. If you want to donate money to me, because I give such a great share, I'm not gonna have to give it back. Just join for a little bit. Check it out. I'm telling you, there really is nothing. David said this from the bottom of his heart. I'm the Moshe Feinstein of this generation. You look at me, you say, who's this guy? On YouTube, he dresses sometimes with, in t-shirts. He's not even wearing a jacket, not a tie. I don't wear a tie. I don't wear a jacket. He's not even a rabbi. I mean, who is this guy? Ben Sion Lang? He's not even a rabbi. You don't call him Rabbi Ben Sion Lang. You don't have smicha. This is the guy I'm supposed to trust in my Torah learning, my Torah education? No. Precisely because I'm a regular guy. I'm one of, Ellie Stefanski always says, I'm one of the guys. I'm one of the guys. He's not one of the guys. He's a rich businessman. If you don't know his background, real estate mogul. He was a very successful businessman, but he did not spend most of his years learning in yeshiva. I have spent most of the years learning in yeshiva, and I'm a normal guy still. Can you believe that? So I have the Torah background, plus I am probably the most normal guy in the world. I know a lot about the world. I'm very involved in the world. So you're not going to find a unique combination. A gadol. Imagine someone, I'd be like Rav Chaim Kanievsky, Allah Shalom, Zechron Levracha, Zecher Tzadik Kadosh Levracha. I am the modern day Rav Chaim Kanievsky, but I'm also at the same time the guy who you can talk to about anything, any topic in the world, and I am very opinionated also. I have unique opinions about these things also. Some things that will make you. I've said a lot of these things during the shir. If you listen to them, I sprinkle them in when they're appropriate, when it's related to the daf. So my opinions are unique. I believe helpful to the Jewish community and to the world. So stick with me. Stick with me. Hear out a couple shiurim, a couple Ian shiurim. You'll be hooked for sure. Let's get started. The bottom line is Zayin at Beis. Tana Rabbanan, 4 lines of the bottom. Banim v'lo banos. We're trying to figure out by a mystery, an Egyptian, right? An Egyptian person. Not too many Jews in Egypt. Someone from Egypt wants to convert. So It says Dor Shlishi, the third generation, meaning the Egyptian that converts. He himself was the first generation. His grandkid can marry into the Kal. The mystery who converts is a Jew. He just can't marry into a regular Jewish woman. Dor Shlishi, but it says Bonim. So Reb Shimon darshans just like by Ammon and Moavi. He darshans the masculine, not the female. Banos, meaning an Egyptian woman who converts, she's immediately allowed to marry a Jewish man. Rabbi Yehuda argues, Hari Omer, Bano Sharivaldu Lehem Dor Shlishi, Akasav Talam Beleda. It adds the word Yevaldu, Leda. So therefore, it says Banim, it also says Leda. Leda, just like men are born, women are also born. They're not created from the ribs of man, like Chava was. They're born. So therefore, it includes men and women. Amar Yochanan, Lav, Amar Yehuda, Akasav Talam Beleda. If he didn't have this argument, the Torah depended on being born. He wouldn't be able to say anything, to retort anything to Reb Shimon. Machlokas and Kedushin and Yehuda and Yosi, whether a Gerim, a regular person, a regular not from Mitzri, Adomi, Amoni, Moavi, a regular non-Jew, American Jew converts, or not American Christian converts, not a Jew, a Christian converts to Judaism. Is he part of the Kal, right? Can you marry him? Can a Jewish man marry that woman? Or could a male convert, marry a Jewish woman? Rabbi Yehuda says, yeah. Kal, Gerim, Mikri, Kal. Gerim, regular Gerim, converts are immediately part of the Kal community. Rabbi Yossi, who we pass like, doesn't hold like Rabbi Yehuda holds they are. So if that's true, like Rabbi Yehuda is saying, Mitzri Sheni, the top line, Chem and Aleph, Mitzri Sheni, B'magi Toyer. Mitzri Sheni, a second generation Mitzri, meaning his father converted. He had a child. How is he going to become Tar? He can't marry. There's nobody he can marry. He can't marry. He can't marry a Mitzri Shenis, right? Because she's a convertist. She converted. Kal Gerim Ikri Kal. There, he's considered. It says in Torah, Mitzri lo yavo b'kal Hashem, but a Giores could be married. A Giores is part of the Kal Hashem. So therefore, right, if you hold like Reb Shimon, that basically that banim v'lo banos, so therefore. The status of mitzvahs wouldn't apply to a female convert. So even from Egypt, from Mitzrayim. So therefore she'd be a regular Giores, like an American Giores. And Kal Gerim Ikri Kal. So how can the Mitzri Sheni ever marry her? He can never marry a Mitzri Sheni. He can't marry anybody. So how legally is he going to have a Mitzri Shlishis? How are you going to have a Mitzri Shlishis? You'll never be able to have it. So where it says, Dilma the Avar v'Nasiv. Torah is talking about a case. You could have a Mitzri Shlishi if he didn't have Aveira. He didn't have Aveira and married the Giores. It doesn't apply to Bonos, but it applies to Giores. You're not allowed to marry her, but Mitzri Sheni didn't have Aveira. So the Gemara says, the lo kasev kra. The Gemara argues, no, he couldn't say that. The Torah wouldn't talk about cases of Aveira. The Rebbe said, Mamzer, what are you talking about? Mamzer, if someone is born from a forbidden union between Surah Karis, right? It talks about a mamzer. In order to get a mamzer, produce a mamzer, you have to have a forbidden union. That's usher. It says the Ili Surah Kasav, right? Yeah, right. The Torah mentions Averos when they happened, when it wants to tell you about an Isser, that there's going to be an Isser. A mamzer now is Asher Lava Bakal Hashem. But when the person who is the product of that union is mutter, for example, by Mitzri, so that doesn't say, it wouldn't say that. Even though that he was a product of Aveira to become, but now he's a regular Mitzri Shlishis, which is Mutter Level Bakal. Mitzri Shlishis is Mutter Level Bakal. We do find this, that a Machzer Grushaso, right? It says in the Torah that you divorce a woman, she marries another man, you can't marry her again, right? And if you have children after you remarry her, the children are mutarim. It says that over there. Talks about Machzer Grushaso, which is an Isser, and his Leitera. The children are not toevim, they're not pasal lakuna. Whereas Hasim Mishum Ikari Surah Hu the Kasve. The Torah Agav, it's a drasha. We learn Hitoy Velo Banato, even when the Torah just wrote it just to tell you that it's Aser. That's the main part of the pasuk. It's Aser for him to be Machzik Rishasa. Tanar Rabbanan. Im Nemar Bonim, Lama Nemar Doros, Nemar Doros, Lama Nemar Bonim by when it comes to a Mitri, it says 3 generations, and it also says Bonim. Why do you say both of them? Ibn Emar Bonim, it said your sons, Lo Nemar, your children, Lo Nemar Doros. How you see Omer, Ben Rishon V'Sheni Aser. What does Ben mean? Meaning the first child you have, meaning the Mitri who converts, the first child and the second child he has is Aser. Shlishi Mutter, the third one, the third child, even though he's a Mitri Sheni, would be Mutter Levavakal. Kach Nemar Doros. It says Doros 3 generations. Nemar Doros. Lo Nemar Banim. Doesn't say Banim. Hayizi Omer Losan Om Din Har Sinai. Doros was talking. Torah was given Har Sinai. So it's 3 generations. If you converted at Har Sinai, you should have converted at Har Sinai. But after that, it could be Mutter Levavakal right away after they convert. Kach Nemar Banim. Lahem. So the Gemara continues darshaning by Mitzri. Mehem Mana. Lahem, right? You count the Mitzri Sheni. You include the first generation, meaning the Egyptian who converted. He is the first generation, not that his child is the first generation. So you only have to wait. His grandchildren are already mutal bakal. Lahem, it says again, Lahem, halach achar psulon. You go after their psulon. This comes to teach you. Let's say you have an intermarriage between a regular Jewish man and one of these things, a Mitzri Adomi. Or if you have a Mitzri Adomi, it was a convert, marries the Israelis. So the child doesn't go after the Israel, the father who's the Israel, or the mother who's the Israelis, goes after the Psul, the Isser. And he's considered a Mitzri Sheni or considered Adomi Sheni. So the Gemara says, Israel Michtav Lahem, Israel Michtav Asher Yivaldu. I say both of these. Because Rahman Asher Yivaldu, I mean, Mneim Mana Kasa, Mneim Kasa. You said the children that you bear, I would have thought you start counting Mitzri Shlishi, the child of the convert is the first generation. Mana Kasa Rahmana Lahem. Start from them, from the convert themselves. They're called the first generation. Because Rahmana Lahem, I mean, a Mitzris Muberis, Shinis Gaira, I would have the assumption that an Egyptian woman, that she was pregnant, and she converted while she was pregnant. Hiu Benachat. Her and her child are one, meaning they're one generation. That Leda, it's depending not when she's carrying the fetus, but actually the Leda, once she gives birth, after she converts, he's already considered a Mitzri Sheni. Israel Michtav Lahem, Hacha, Israel Michtav Lo, Gabi Mamzer. It has to say Lahem by Mitzri and Lo by Mamzer. Because Rahmana Hacha Mishum Debami Tipa Psula, right? By Mamzer, Mamzer, because we say Lo and Lahem. A tough day. I don't know. I had a hard time learning this today. Mine wasn't in it. Let's get this clear. Gemara says, right. Then when it comes to halacha achar psulon, you go after the psul both by a mamzer and by a mitzri. Meaning a mitzri who marries the Israelis, or a mamzer who marries the Israelis. The child is, no matter what it is, a mamzer or a mitzri. It says over here, meaning a mitzri, the child of a mitzri comes from tipa psula. A mitzri at one point was a non-Jewish person. About mamzer, a mamzer comes as forbidden union, but it's 2 Jewish people. A malo, I would say that you don't go after the disqualification. I mean, a mamzer marries the Israelis, the child is Israelis. Goes after the mother in Judaism. But you because Rahman Gabi mamzer, you go halacha psul, mishum dein royal bakal. Mamzer can't marry into the kala olam. Aval hacha imalo, a mitzri eventually could marry after 3 generations. You might say that you go after the Israel or the Israeli. It's sricha. Amar Rav Rachan Amar Yochanan mitzri shein shenas mitzri rishona. Let's say a Mitzri Shein. I mean, his father converted as a Mitzri, and he's the 2nd generation Mitzri. And now he married a woman who just converted, an Egyptian woman who just converted. B'na Shlishayu. Yochanan says the child goes after the father. It's considered a 3rd generation. Havai Alma Kasavar Basar Didei Shadinam Le. Yochanan knows you go after the father. Meitzer of Yosef, Rabbi Tarfon, Omer Yecholim Mamzer Ali Toyer. Right? Rabbi Tarfon has a way. This is Nogel Halacha. If you're a Mamzer, unfortunately your mom's there, you could actually somehow marry into Klal Yisrael. How do you do it? Tarfon explains in Masechus Kedushin. He says, "Ichol mamzer litoyer." In case of mamzer shenas or shivcha, mamzer all he has to do is marry a shivcha kindness. If there is such a thing as shivcha kindness, right? You could actually have a non-Jewish woman who converts halfway. She becomes a shivcha kindness. Let the mamzer marry her, and the child of Vlad Evid. The Vlad goes after the mother. It's an Evid Kanaini, a Shichro, and then you just free the Evid, Nimsa ben Chorin, and he's a full Yisrael. He's not considered Mamzer, Alma Basar Didash. We see from there, you go after her. Whereas Shani Hassam by Shifcha, it's different. The woman and the children always go together when it comes to Shvachos. Right? That's what the pasuk's talking about. Misi Rava, Amar Rabbi Yehuda, Minyamin Ger Mitzra Yali Chayver Mitalmidi Rabbi Akiva. Minyamin, who was a Ger Mitzri. I had a friend from Rabbi Akiva. Amar Ani Mitzri Rishon and Asati Mitzri's Rishona. I am a first generation convert from Mitzrayim. I married a first generation convertis from Mitzrayim. Asi Libni Mitzri's Shania. So I'll marry my child who's a Mitzri Sheni to a Mitzri Shenius. And then the third generation, the grandchild, they are to marry into regular Klal Yisrael. If you go after him, Afilu Rishona Nami. Even his son, who's a Mitzri Sheni, can marry Mitzri Rishona. He doesn't have to marry Mitzri Shnia. Nami. Hamar le Rabbi Yochanan Latana Tani Rishon. Rabbi Yochanan actually did say it. He said, when Minyamin said it, he said, go tell the Brisa, he really meant to say you can even marry a Mitzri Rishona. Gas Rav Dimi Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Mitzri Sheni. So now we have a different version of Rabbi Yochanan, Rav Dimi's version. He says Rabbi Yochanan would actually hold the child goes after the mother. If you really go after the mother, let's say you separated a common chatas, you violated Shabbos, let's say, b'shogeg, you have to bring a chatas, and the animal happens to be pregnant. V'yalda, and it gave birth before it was brought as a carbon. You can use one as a carbon, either one. And the other one will see you get grazed until it gets a blemish. If you say that the uber is not a thigh of its mother, meaning it's not attached to its mother, it's not connected to its mother. It's like when you separate a korban chatas that's pregnant, it's like separating two distinct animals which are chatos for your responsibilities, for your chovos. And that would be the exact halacha. You could use one of them, and the second one just let it graze until it gets mum, and then you could eat it. If you say an uber is a thigh of its mother, it's literally part of the mother. Havale vlad chatas, it will be the same din as a vlad chatas. Vlad chatas lamisa azla. If the child of a chatas, what would be the case of a child of a chatas? Right, an animal is brought as a chatas, and as a child, gives birth to a child. Lamisa azil. The halacha is you have to send it to misa to die. You put it in a jail, let's say, and let it die. Ishtik, he was silent. Amalei Dilma Shiny Hassam. So you see what? You see obviously that Uber is considered Lavia Rachimo, so it's not part of the mother, so we don't go after the mother. Amalei Dilma Shiny Hassam to see what Valdu. It says by Mitzvah, it says that they give birth, the cause of Tala Baleda. You see that the Torah depends Mitzvah on the actual Leda, and the Leda, the child is separate. It's obviously. So therefore, you go after the Leda. You go after the Leda by the case of Mitzri Sheni. It would go after the mother because the mother gave birth. So really, Uber Lavia Rachimo, right? And that's why Shtei Chatos. We have the din of Shtei Chatos, Uber Lavia Rachimo. But here it says Baleda, who gave birth to the child? The mother is the one that gives birth, so therefore it goes after the mother. He says must be. He said to Abaye, he was questioning him. You must have been among the pillars when Rabbi Yochanan said this. I mean, he said, I saw you in the base medrash, and he said this, and Rabbi Yochanan explained himself. Like, why are you asking the question? You knew the answer already. Time of the Ksiv Asher Yavaldu. So the Gemara infers, it's only because Asher Yavaldu, Haba Amal Basar Avu Ashadinam. Normally you'd go after the father. Elahadam Marava Nachris Muberish in this Gaira, let's say a non-Jewish woman, she's pregnant, she converts. Bana in Sarach Tevila. Her child doesn't do a tefillah. The tefillah that she did while she was pregnant with him counts for the child as well. He's born a Jew. Amay in Sarach Tefillah, why do you need a tefillah? If Uber Lab Yarachimo, it's not considered part of the mother, so therefore it should need a tefillah. Maybe it doesn't need a tefillah because it's considered a tefillah for the vlad already while it's in the stomach of the mother. Minat Torah, a chatzitza for a mikvah, going in a mikvah, when it covers the chatzitza, the interposition covers most of your body, and you care about it, you don't want to remove it. Rubo she'eno ma'akal v'no chotzis, but even if it's rubo, it covers most of your body, but you don't care about it, it's not chotzis. Right, so therefore you're not makbid on it. We don't have any reason that the fetus wants to be covered by the mother, so therefore it's considered to be midoraisa, it's considered to be not a chatzitza, so the tefillah is for the child also. The Gemara rejects this. Ayin chedam based on the tab. Amrav kahana lo shana la rubo aval kula chotzes. Rav Yitzchak only said by rubo, and most of it is interposition. But here the baby is completely inside the mother, doesn't touch the water at all. So therefore, for sure, even according to Rav Yitzchak, even if it's enol makbel with the rice, that would be chotzes. My answer is shiny uber the hainu rabise. No, the reason that the tefillah works for the uber is that that's the way it's grown, and the only way for a fetus to develop is in the mother's stomach. And you have to plant it in the mother's stomach for the fetus to develop. So therefore, even though normally kulo would be chotzes, here it wouldn't be chotzes because no other way. It's ef shar ben yanacher, so therefore it wouldn't be a chatzitza, and therefore it really uber lav yarachim. But the tefillah works for the child independently because it's a natural way of happening. Yasser Ravina Rabbi Yochanan umos halach achar hazachar. When it comes to umos nations, right? We know there's an Israel in the Torah to marry Zion losischatim bam. We're not allowed to marry the Zion nations, the 7 different foreign nationalities that live in Eretz Yisrael, Shiva Umos. And then there's other Umos. There's Americans, there's Norwegians, there's different, there's different nations out there. So if another foreign nation is marrying one of the Zion Umos, that's what the Gemara is going to talk about. But Umos halach achar zachar, you go after who the father is. So if the father is one of the Zion Kanainim, so the child is a Kanaini. If the father is an American, it's called an American child. This guy ruhalach akar pogum shavishneim. If both parents underwent a gerus before they had a child, you give the child a status of the worst status, the more defective status, more blemished status. Umos halach akar zachar l'sanya minayin lechem and omos shabala knainis. Say one of the foreign nations, an American, was Boel, one of the Knainis, someone from indigenous to Eretz Yisrael, Zion Umos, a holid ben, Shatarash like Nos Be'evid. He has the din of an American, and you could buy him as an Evid. You're not allowed to buy Zion Kanani, you have to kill the Zion Umos. You can buy him as an Evid. Alright? People who live, Toshavim, are people from outside, they're outsiders, they're foreigners that live in Eretz Yisrael, who are foreigners, that the father is American. Let's say the father was a Knaini. He was together with an American woman. The whole bench that Rosh knows about. Maybe you think also he doesn't have the din of Zion Umos. People that are right that were born in your land, but to exclude people that live in your land, I mean they're indigenous to over here, so therefore the father is a Knaini, therefore the child being a Knaini, you can't buy him as an Eved, you have to kill him technically. So therefore you see from these 2 psukim that it goes after the father by the Umos. So we're going to discuss the Ben Sion, we're going to discuss more of why it is when by Jewish lineage you go after the mother, and by Goyish lineage you go after the father. This Gairu, and before Matan Torah also, the Ramban says go after the father even in Judaism. This Gairu halach achar pogum shabishneim. The second part of the statement, that if 2 people converted, you go after the worst one. The male was a Mitzri convert, and the female was an Ammonius convert. My pogum shabishneim istva. There's not both of them don't have defects, right? Ammoni v'la Ammonis. The mother, she's a female convert, she's a complete Jewish. Ella ba'ammoni shenasa mitzris. Ammoni male who married, who's a convert, who married a mitzris convert. Izachar havi. If their child is a male child, shadei basra ammoni, go after the ammoni. The ammoni is never mutter of a bakal. In a keva heavy. If it's a female shadei basra mitzris, go after the mitzris. So she has to wait at least till dor shlishi. If she was an ammonis, she would be mutter right away. So therefore, she has to wait dor shlishi. So you go after the pogum shemishayim. We'll also explore that in Ben Sion. Explain this statement in the Gemara. The Mishnah, Mamzer ben Sinin Asurin v'Isurin Isser Olam, a mamzer, right? Born in a forbidden union. We learned out of an Isser Karis, Vinasinim. We're going to learn more about this today and tomorrow. These were the Givonim, people in Eretz Israel who came to try to convert in the days of Yoshua. Yoshua found out about their ruse. They didn't really want to convert. They just didn't want to get killed by them. So he made them water drawers and wood choppers to service, like basically janitors. They were janitors in the Beis HaMikdash or the Mishkan, what it's in Shiloh and Nov. That's what they were. They were janitors, so they weren't exactly Jewish. Maybe the Raisa, the Rabban, they weren't Jewish. They were half converts. Asur and V'Yisrael Olam. They're not allowed to marry into Klal Yisrael. Echad Zchar V'Yachanekevos, whether they're male or female. Amar Reish Lakish Mamzeres La'achar Asar Doros Muteres. Reish Lakish is a chiddush that a mamzeres, right, a girl who's born in a forbidden union, if it's 10 generations have passed, she's motel levakal. Yolav Asiri Me'amoni. We learned Asiri Me'amoni miyad. Moavi Mala Hala Nekevos Mutar. Just like Amoni and Moavi, right? The females who convert are mutar right away. Afkan Nekevos Mutaros. So too over here, Imams are Mutaros because they're Shava. Imala Hala miyad. Just like maybe you'll say like over there. An Ammonis who converts right away, she's mutar. It's Afkan miyad. Hanik Zereshava Masir of Elach. The Yerushalayim only works from 10th generation and on, right? Hana not Mamzerim and Asinin Asur and Israel and Hayz Reish Lakish deal with our Mishnah. Echad Zchar Me'achan Nekevos. Lo Kash. Hakaman Damar Domina. Mina Hakaman Damar Domina B'Uki Ba'asra. Our Mishnah follows the one. There's two opinions when you have Gzeira Shava. Do you take the Gzeira Shava and transport what's in one place to the other place, and then continue deriving it, other laws relevant to that from the place you took it, or the other laws that apply to the Gzeira Shava you take from the new place? Bishu holds you take from the new place. Oki Ba'asra. Rebbe Lezer holds you take from Don Mina Mina. Reish Lakish learns like Rebbe Lezer. Don Mina Mina. So we learn from Ammoni and Moab, Asiri, to Mamzeris, to Mamzer. So therefore, obviously it says 10 generations. You can't disregard 10 generations, but you could still learn from Ammoni. It says Ammoni La Ammonis, that it helps that Don Mina Mina tell you that by females after 10 generations it's over. By Mamzer. And Rabbi Yeshua, who's the author of our Mishnah, holds Oki Ba'asra. You go to the place where you're learning the Gzeira Shava, the Mamzer, and there's no heter by Mamzer. Even after 10 generations by the Nekevos, we don't go in the heter in the Nekevos, we don't learn from Ammoni Vel Ammonis. Shal Rebbe Lezer, they asked Rebbe Lezer, Mamzeres la'achar Sarah Dari Mahu. Mamzeres after generations, what's Allah? Amalaha mi'itein li dar shlishi v'atarenu. They don't even reach the dar shlishi. Mamzer will never happen. They'll keep on marrying. Mamzer will marry Mamzeres. They don't even have a third generation. He holds they'll never procreate. They'll never continue like this. He says they'll never happen. Our Mishnah talks about that case. Obviously, it's something that happened. Those we know about, that everyone knows are Mamzer, and they live because when people are going to be able to be known, to know that they're Mamzer, and they're going to stay away from them. People that are undercover, we don't know they're Mamzer, and they're never going to live. The Yediyah, otherwise it's going to trip people up. The Yediyah, the ones that are sort of known, right? It's covered up by some people, but some people, the insiders, know. They live 3 generations. They don't live more than 3 generations. There was a certain Mamzer in Rabbi Ami's town. He let everyone know, this guy's a Mamzer. Stay away from him. Don't marry him unless you're Mamzer. Bachi Va'azali was crying. Why are you crying? I gave you life. Now everyone knows you're Mamzer. You can live as many generations as you want. Amar Rav Chana bar Adin, and seen them David Gazra Aleim, and seen them where David made a Gzeira on them. Shem Rabbi Yikra Amelech Givonim Ayomer Aleim Givonim Lo Mei Yisrael Hema. My time of Gazra Alayu. He found out the pasuk says they're not part of Bnei Yisrael. Why did he go there on them? They shouldn't be allowed to marry into the Klal Yisrael. D'chsiv, Ahirav made David Shlosha Shanam. There was a famine in David's time, 3 years. Shana Achar Shana, 1 year after the next. Shana Rishona Amar Lahem. He was trying to figure out what was the cause of the famine. So the first year he said to Klal Yisrael, Shem Ovnei Avodas Kachavim Yishbach. Maybe you're worshiping Avodah Zarah. D'chsiv Avadtem Elohim Acharim Shachvisam Lehem Atar Shishmayim. Pasuk in Kriya Shema says you'll do Avodah Zarah and Hashem will close the skies. There won't be any rain. They checked, there were no idol worshippers. Shniya Amar Lahem, the second year, Hashem over Averi Yishbach. Maybe the people doing Avera, sleeping with the wrong woman. Right? There'll be rainwaters will be withheld if there's harlots, if there's harlotry. But they found out there was no harlotry in Klal Yisrael. So just Amar Lahem Shema Posgei Stuck Avraham Yishmachem Hayin Nosnin. People that pledge big donations of stock and they don't give. The Chsiv and the Siyim Veruach Geshem Ayin. People say things. There's clouds and winds, but there's no rain. Ish Mishal Mata Sheker. People, praise themselves. They give big donations, big philanthropy, but they lie about it. They don't actually follow through. They didn't find those type of people in Klal Yisrael. Amar Ina David Tola Yelbi. David said, I have to figure it out myself. Miyad Vayakish David Pnei Hashem. David asked Pnei Hashem, Mahi, what did he do? Amar Shlakish Shal Wurim Atum. He asked in return, what sin caused this? My mashma. How do you know he asked Wurim Atum? Amar Lazar asked Pnei. It's Xer Shav Pnei Pnei. Ksiv Hacha Vayakish David Pnei Hashem. Ksiv Hasam Yishal Lo Mishpat Wurim Atum Lifnei Hashem. Was also Pnei Hashem. What happened? Hashem said it was related to Shaul. Two things about Shaul. Shaul wasn't properly eulogized. He was a great man. He wasn't eulogized properly. That was a sin. That Shaul actually did an avera, that he killed the Givonim. When Shaul was part of Klal Yisrael, they were punished on account of Shaul. Where do you know he killed the Givonim? Right? Nov was the place where after Shiloh wasn't available for the Mishkan, it was destroyed, so the Mishkan was moved to Nov, and which is the city of Kohanim. And the Kohanim had janitors. These Givonim were their janitors, and they provided in payment for their janitorial services. They gave them food and water. Now and then, based on Shaul believed Doeg, and he killed all of the Kohanim near Kohanim, so they lost their parnasa. Malo kasav kilo hargan. So it's like Shaul killed them. Kataval Shaul nisbak alachav kataval shehemis hagivonim. The Gemara wonders, Hashem is saying two averas. One, that Shaul wasn't eulogized properly. It sounds like he was a great person, and then he has a taina that Hashem has a taina that Shaul did not big avera. In the Amar Yisrael, Hamayil Siv Big Shaul Hashem Kol An Ve'aretz Asher Mishpato Paulo Asher Mishpato Sham Paulo. The pasuk says by An Ve'aretz, people that are humble. It mentions both things, that when Hashem mentions mishpato, it mentions bad judgments against a person, and Shaul did an avera. Paulo, it also mentions his works, his great actions, and the fact that Shaul was a great person, he wasn't eulogized properly, also was an avera, so they're mentioned together. Tomorrow we'll get into the Nesidim more. Hope you have a great day. See you in Yevamos. See you coming up right now.